Good morning, everybody. This is John Spiokla from GAI Insights, coming to you with our daily Gen AI news briefing, 5 days a week, rating top news essential, important, or optional. Today, we are sponsored by CustomGPT.ai, a fantastic tool to help you get up and going everywhere from prototypes to production systems in an easy, cloud-based way. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, who's going to lead our discussion this morning.
Thank you, John. We have a very good set of articles this morning. Just right before this call, we were already discussing some of them. So we're going to start with a very exciting one on the first AI software engineer. Then we're going to move on to talk about lowering expectations of what AI can do from a business perspective for all of us. So we'll learn a little bit about what the big players are saying around that. We'll then move on to a very interesting article on Meta, Gen AI infrastructure. We'll be educated on what they've done to build that up. Then we have a few articles on the video side of things and images. So we'll talk about MidJourney and a company called Tavis. And lastly, we'll wrap up with an update on Perplexity and integrating with third-party content. So with that, let's get started, please, Ankash, with our first article.
Thanks, Tanya. So the first one that we have for today is from Cognition Labs, and they have introduced a new agent called Devin, and it is all over the Twitterverse. Everyone is sort of praising the tool, but we have Adam giving us some different views on it.
All right. So first, we're going to go to Luda to kick us off on this article, and then Adam, we'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Okay, this is quite a solid post that I think will attract a lot of attention. It's already attracting a lot of attention. It's very smartly positioned as the first AI software engineer, and then there are several clips. If you watch them, you'll see how Devin, that's their product, creates and automatically creates programs, builds an environment for fine-tuning an LLM. It's very impressive, really very impressive. We have been talking about software engineering going autonomous or semi-autonomous and helping software programmers to focus on more important tasks. And this is really a live demonstration of what it can do. This is very early. They're showing really good results on SWE programming set or problem-solving set, much better than the other tools, but it's early days. So I would rate it important because it is very critical for our audience to know this.
Thank you, Luda. Adam.
Yeah, thanks. I do agree it's important. This is one of the first big steps we've seen towards agentic systems, right? Where you have effectively an AI that's an agent and it's executing other tasks on your behalf and basically running the whole show, right? And for that reason, this is absolutely important. It's an important step in development of this. I think it's a little overstated. Like the headline says first AI software engineer, but then you see even in the first small line, it says the first fully autonomous AI software engineer. So there's a guy, Nick Davos, who has what's known as the Grimoire, and that's in the GPT store. It has over 1 million plus users on it, and it does much of what's possible with Devin. And also a guy I know, Josh Olin, he has GPT, and before that a plugin called WeGPT that was able to make a website and a game of Pong from a prompt a year ago. So a lot of it's sort of half evolution and significant development and half really good marketing and a slick dog and pony show. It is an important development though, and I'd probably just leave it at that.
Okay, I'm going to make the argument for essential. Ankash, could you play one of the videos like further down on the page while we're talking? Just at any one of them, although the AI training the AI to me was very impressive. Here's why I say essential, and I hear you both and agree, like this functionality was already created to some degree. However, the automation of it, I think, is significant. It's debugging on its own. You don't have to go in there and say, like, hey, this isn't working, fix it. Like, it literally is like finding its own mistakes as it goes. And you can interject if you are finding things that are wrong with it. And I'm coming from, as you know, I don't have a coding background, right? So of course I get more excited about this because it opens so many opportunities for people that don't have that skill, right? And to me, the automated nature of it makes it open up that world to even more people. Also, I feel like, a lot of software engineers that I've talked to kind of are like, yeah, you're still going to need us. Yes, we're still going to need you, but we're not going to need as many of you. And I feel like folks need to start coming to grips with that, right? And like ensuring that they're positioning themselves in a way that they are valuable going forward. And certainly they will be, as long as they're definitely like familiar with using these tools and such. So to me, yes, these guys are doing something I'm sure others are working on, and they've had good marketing. I would note that these are also champion coders, and everybody's very excited about this actual group. They're backed by Peter Thiel. Like, I'm arguing for essential. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, David. And I know we want to kind of move forward with some of the other articles. So I'm going to agree with David on this. I had marked it important before the call, but I think, David, you have convinced me that it should be essential because, again, the audience that we're addressing in our daily news and our newsletter is primarily the executive making these decisions. And it's an article that is very compelling. It's easy. It has the videos. It gives you some tangible examples. Well, this might have existed in the past. This product, this company has made it very easy now to understand what is available. And you can even contract Devin on Upwork. So I think they've packaged this very nicely. So we'll go with essential for now, and let's move on to the second article.
Even like this graph here, which shows like this incredible performance, this is showing that it can only actually autonomously resolve a third of the issues. So it's not actually doing everything. It's not replacing software engineers. It's very good marketing, and it's convincing a lot of people who aren't developers.
Overblow it. I think we shouldn't overblow it. It's really, I'm with Adam. This is great demonstration of what we've been saying in the WINS framework. This is an area where there's a lot that LLMs can do, and they're doing it. However, like this thing, all of the examples rely on good documentation on GitHub. If you send it a regular program, the documentation will suck. And as a result, they wouldn't be able to do much. It will come back to the human to help. So this is a great feature, but it's not there yet. It's early days.
It's definitely early and it's not perfect.
Oops.
But the fact that we've gotten this far already, to me, is pretty impressive.
Sure.
And like, if you're not planning ahead for the implications of this, Andreessen said how many years ago software is going to eat the world. It's really going to eat the world soon because everybody's going to be able to make it, right? It opens like a world of creativity to those of us like me that love to make things but may not have like the skill to do this. I think it's just, I understand that we can't use it now. I think it's just essential to keep track of how fast things are improving. But
it's a well-packaged product. Yes. Okay, so we will move on with essential on this one, and let's go on to the next article, which is lowering our expectations, right, around AI, Ankaj. Thank you.
Right, Tanya. So as sort of Cognition Labs brought up our expectations of software engineering, this sort of tones down it a bit. Salesperson from Amazon, Google, they're quietly telling people that while generative AI can help a lot, but there are cost impact considerations to take into account while making those decisions.
Thank you. And David, would you like to kick us off on this article, please?
Yeah. I'm actually leaning on optional on this one, and here's why. first of all, usually I love this reporter, Stephanie. I am connected with her on LinkedIn, and I'm always praising her. I think she does a really good job. I don't think she did a great job in this article. I mean, if you want to talk about the revenues of the cloud providers perhaps not reflecting the level of frenzy around this, she's probably right. It's probably right. I think it's not going to show up as readily as we might think on the near term. So I think that part's right. But she's highlighting quotes such as someone saying, "No one's going to put this in customer service to automate customer service yet." Well, that's just flat out wrong, right? We know that. We know we've looked at the case study Jerry several times where they're almost fully automated. Now she's talking about fully 100% automated, zero humans. Like, of course, that's not going to be the case. It may never be the case. But are people using it in customer service? Like, yes, Wells Fargo is using it. AT&T is using it. Walmart's using it, right? And it's largely automated. So I just felt like this goes a little too far in trying to paint the picture of like, we're about to enter the trough of disillusionment. Like, of course, we know this is all way overhyped in a lot of ways, but I just feel like this went a little too far and had too few sources cited, and I'd go optional on this one.
Thank you,
Yeah,
David.
I'd
Go ahead,
say
John.
optional. I think, lazy journalism. I hope this was generated by, a robot, because this has zero insight. And, it's just whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a journalist by nature, and I'm a skeptical person. And look, I follow Gary Marcus because I like to hear the naysayers and see what their arguments are. And he jumped on this, by the way. Like, he had a blog post that cited this within an hour as saying, like, look, see, it's not that great. And look, like I said, things are overhyped, but this brings it down too far, I think.
A little too much. All right. So it sounds like we'll go to optional unless someone else has something important to add.
I think we should note that one of the reasons I think this article even exists is that the expectations for the revenue are not quite being met. So, or people are expecting way much more than what will be shown. So this is something that it's true, and it's overblown, and there is a disconnect, and that probably is worth mentioning.
I think that's true. I think that the problem is that the systems integrators and the cloud providers are looking at this as another big transformational project. It's not. It's like the next generation of end user computing. So there's tons of use, right? But there's not going to be this is not going to have a lot of service dollar pull through. Like,
not yet.
SAP, for every dollar of SAP software that was sold, between $5 and $10 of services wrapped around it. For Workday, it was between $3 and $5. This isn't going to be like that. And this also gets me back to something you said, David. I completely disagree with you about the lack of demand for software programmers. I think it's going to be increased. It's like, like when people get into hot rodding in the 60s and start hacking around with their cars, primary demand, for mechanics didn't go down because people were hacking with their cars. It went up. I think we're going to have, now they're not going to do exactly the same thing, but so many people are going to start eating the world with software, and they're going to need help because they're going to get sophisticated. They're going to hit a wall. So I think it's going the other way. You have to be careful what skill set you have. You have to, you can't do your old skill set, but I think we're going to see primary demand for labor and software and hardware go up.
Yeah, you make a good point, John. I mean, there is a lot of demand, right? There's pent up demand to do things that companies can't do because they don't have enough talent and bandwidth to actually like get it done, right? Like I always point out how we're always the last people in marketing to get software engineers assigned to us, which is just one area. So like I totally agree with you on that front that it won't be like a massive, half the software engineers lose their jobs. But sorry, Luda, I think I interrupted you.
But
I was gonna, Luda, if I may just
one moment. But the people, just to close this thought, I agree with you guys. It will go up. However, the level of these engineers will have to go higher than what now, because they will have to work with these models. And when this model hicks up and says, I don't know what to do. You have to be at the level to help the model, and it's higher than many programmers currently have. Done, Tanya.
Okay, sorry about that. I know this. We're passionate about this topic, but we need to move on. We still have four to go. So let's. I'm going to mark this one optional, and then we're going to move on to Meta Gen AI infrastructure. Go ahead, Ankash. Thank you.
So this article sort of highlights Meta's Gen AI infrastructure and how they are sort of working around it.
Thank you. And Adam, if you can help us with this, and let's try to move a little quicker because we're running out of time.
I'll try and keep it short. I'd consider this optional. It should come as no surprise to people that Meta is investing heavily in GPUs and that they're building Llama 3. It's impressive that they're announcing 24,000 GPU clusters. But yeah, I mean, they're spending a ton of money on this stuff. So I don't think there's much here that really is going to change anything in terms of the day-to-day execution for a busy executive.
Adam, and in your opinion, what do you think drove them to make this announcement? Because when I was reading it, I was like, is it because of they want to be transparent on what they're doing? Are they trying to say, hey, look at us, we're better than OpenAI, we're building all this infrastructure on our own? Like, what?
I don't know. I wouldn't speculate. I mean, there's a lot of good information in here for people who are looking at the competitive landscape and trying to assess how serious they are and how well developed their infrastructure is. The one thing I will celebrate and applaud is that they continue to hold really clearly the stance towards open source, which is phenomenal. But yeah, this is optional news, and I'm happy to leave.
I have a potential answer to your question, Tanya, which I would say it's the war for talent is part of it, right? I mean, people want to know that, hey, I have all this compute, I can do, incredible things. I mean, the war for talent is real. And so I think a lot of the positioning that companies are doing are trying to get people, because there's only so many people in the world that know how to do this, right? At this point. So that would be my speculation.
That's a good point, Dave. Any other important points before we move on to the next article?
No, Mike Novak agrees it's optional.
All right. Let's move on to the next, Ankash, please.
So the next one is from MidJourney. So MidJourney is now testing a highly requested feature, which is around having consistent characters.
And I think David, we had you.
Well, you know that in my heart, I want to be like essential, but I will say, I will mark this optional for most. I will say it is important for anybody in marketing. It's important to essential for anybody in the entertainment industry. As somebody that, I make my comics every week, the lack of character consistency is painful. There are some ways that you can get it to sort of get close right now, but this will make life easier. But, think about the implications of this, right? Video, right? If you want to create images and make video, which we're increasingly able to do so, you can now basically create your own, once this goes out, by the way, this is still in beta testing. I actually don't have access to it either. Once it comes out, you can envision, like, I can make a full television series based on a fake character, right? Like that's kind of stuff is increasingly coming into view. So while I know we don't get too excited about product features being added to certain products a lot of the times, this one I think will have some serious implications within the next, 6 months or so. But still, I would still call it optional for the moment.
Thank you. Any other comments on this, making it more than optional? All right. Nope. You win, Dave. I think optional it is. Let's move on to the next one, which is the cloning and the investment in a company and a startup called Tavis. I really like this article. And I think I have John on this one.
Yeah, we're going to let Ankash introduce it, or?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Go ahead, John. Thank you for the reminder.
So this one is around a startup called Tavis. So they have raised $18 million to bring face and voice cloning to any app. So while OpenAI and Google are struggling with avoiding deepfakes for elections, seems like this will increase them further.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was, I rated it as important for a number of reasons. First of all, just the efficiency of, for 2 minutes of training, you can create a clone of yourself. And then I thought their architecture of, wanting to register, if you use their APIs, you can register your, voice or your persona, your avatar. And so, these folks are trying to be your avatar hub, which I don't know if that'll work, but, architecturally, I thought it was interesting, and just the productivity of it. And I think a lot of the stuff, there's so many places where people are going to want to put their face or somebody's face or some avatar's face or some creature's face on top of something in the video world or the voice world. And this seemed like a very interesting development. It's still, they just raised dough, and I normally don't, advocate important for stuff where they're just like talking about raising money, but I thought it was important. I thought it was such an important part of marketing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, John. I was important and optional because of I wasn't clear if the product is readily available today.
I don't think so.
So that's why I went to optional. But I thought it was an important topic because the other part that I liked was out of anybody's video, right? It's not just, hey, record me. And so they put some security in place to make sure that, you can't just recreate a character of someone else without that someone else, I guess, somehow saying it's okay to recreate it. I don't know how they're going to control all of that once it goes out to third parties. But I thought it was important overall, how they're approaching this.
I'll add a couple things. At the very top of the article, it actually says used by Meta and Salesforce to create digital replicas. This is absolutely already out there. But this news is actually 7 months old. All they've done is confirmed it was 18 million. Last August, there was an article saying they've raised around 20 million. For me, this was an absolute nothing burger.
So
I thought this was saying it was a second raise, Adam. I think this was I thought this was a
no.
Second.
If you look closer, it says that they've confirmed. It says they've confirmed a fresh 18 million in funding, but it also says that that reports emerged back in August that they had raised about 18 million, but details were scammed. So the impression I got was that this was just confirming their raise, that this wasn't news, and that this has actually already been out there for half a year.
Yeah, I mean. I was actually going to argue for optional anyway, because this you've been able to do this for a while with HeyGen and other. The thing that's new about this one is that you can now, when this is ready, I guess you're going to be able to bring this into your own environment, whereas the other tools, you use their platform, etc. This you're actually going to be able to take it into your own environment and use it, in Salesforce. That's why Salesforce, I'm sure, is testing it right early. Yeah. But I would go optional.
Yeah, I would go optional as well. It's a progression of what we've been talking about, that this will go everywhere, and it is. So just a step forward. And in VC world, you can't announce the closing of funding until everyone who participated approved of the release. So it does take time to get it out as a confirmation. So that's what's happening here.
And in the second paragraph there, you can see it says reports emerged back in August, but details were scant. The company has now confirmed that it has indeed raised 18 million in a Series A. Okay. So this isn't a new raise, just to clarify.
Good. Thank you, Adam. All right, we'll go with optional on this one. And then to wrap up, our last article is on Perplexity. Ankaj, if you'd like to do the intro, thank you.
Sure, Tanya. So Perplexity has been doing these alliances with various software firms, hardware firms, and now it is doing this alliance with Yelp, where it will be bringing Yelp data to its chatbot.
So I signed this to myself, and I ranked it, I think I said important from the perspective of the licensing model, but a couple of things on the article. Many of us are starting to use LLMs to do our searches rather than going to the traditional Google search. So as that is happening, what Perplexity is starting to become a differentiator is by bringing in data that's out there. And Yelp is one of that, right? So I can do a search, and now all of a sudden I see the maps, I see the reviews, and I see this other data. So that makes the whole experience more engaging, right, for us as end users, that now it's all in that one place. So I thought that was a clever way of doing it. It's a differentiator for them. But what caught my attention was the licensing model, right? Because a lot of these companies are getting in trouble for having gone and used data that didn't really belong to them in order to train their LLMs. And what Perplexity is doing is saying, hey, and Yelp, what they're doing is, hey, we're going to license your data, Yelp. You have really, really good data, and we're going to use that. And some other companies are following along with that. I think they call it the Fusion program of licensing this third-party data. So because of that, I gave it important, but you guys can convince me otherwise.
I'd argue for optional. I agree that the data stuff's important. I do think that a really important message here for me is not so much the big guys like Perplexity and so forth licensing known content, known end user content like Yelp. I think the interesting part, to your point, Tanya, is I think 2024 and 2025 is the year of vertically integrating in proprietary data. I think the smart money is going to be looking for, how do I get access? And you see some of it in biopharma and so forth. But I think that's we're going to find new avenues where people are going to all of a sudden wake up and say, "Oh my goodness, if I combine this with a generative AI model, this could actually I could actually sell my data." Something that's people have been talking about for a long time, but I think you'd actually do it.
Okay, so John is optional. I said important. Someone wants to break this.
Optional for me. This is an example of doing it right and putting together a licensing model, but it is not new, really. It has been
okay.
All right.
All right, we'll wrap it up with optional, and I think we have a few minutes left, John, for any announcements. Thank you, everyone.
No announcements really. Lovely to have you all here. And do we have our final slide here? Akash is just giving us the final slide. All right. So we've got, Devin as essential, and then Amazon, Meta, MidJourney, Generative AI, and Perplexity is optional. So very easy day for our audience. One thing to read and a bunch of stuff to peruse. Very good. With that, I just want to again thank our sponsor, CustomGPT.ai, which is essential to getting going on large language models. And want to thank our team of analysts, and look forward to talking to you all tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody.